it's easier to move an object that's in motion than one that's standing still. And he's like, there's been times where I got paralyzed out of fear of failure after failing, that I would repeat failure, that I stood still for too long.
Right, is like kind of knowing when it's our time to walk away, because there are those, right? We're still 40-year-old parents, so there are still times we're like, yo, we definitely just need to walk and let whatever happens here happen here. Yeah, which is good. So I know we're coming to the end of our time. I have two more questions for you guys. The first question is about your own dads. Okay, it's a two-part question. You can answer both parts if you want. You don't have to. What's something that you really appreciated about your dad? And then what's something that you wish your dad would have done differently?
Ooh, it's also good too, because it's something I talk about. Well, for me, I also had an amazing father figure. My dad was like the dad to a freaking crap ton of boys, like, and teenagers, and all through high school, right? Throughout sports, he became the dad that a lot of these kids didn't have. And so I realized at a very young age how lucky I was to have that. But something that my dad gave me that is one of, I think, my biggest tools that I have, but I had to learn how to use this tool. And it's the tool of, no joke, like hard work, like being willing to just do whatever the heck it takes to complete the mission in front of you, whatever it is, right? Yep. And so my dad was a hard freaking worker. He worked a ton. He built a very successful company from nothing. And so I learned what it meant to work hard, to earn, and to literally be somebody that would genuinely give you the shirt off his back. That was just my dad. He was even at their most wealthy point, or wealthiest point, you would have never guessed it, right? Instead, he would have done things like gave a car to somebody that needed it, or, drove less of a nice car so he could help provide a different, vehicle for somebody else, and employed people that he shouldn't have employed for a long freaking time because he felt guilty because he was providing for that employee's family. And one of the biggest blessings that he ever gave me. But what I took away from him is, especially right now at the stage that my kids are at, I don't take it for granted, and I'm still very appreciative of how hard he worked to build the life that he was able to give my sister and I. But the one takeaway I took from him is that I will be present, that there is no dollar amount right now that can take me away from being as present with my children and my family at this stage of my life. When they're this young, I don't want them to go to the grandparents' house 24/7. I don't want to have a babysitter 24/7. My work can wait. And some people, that's not okay, because that means they're going to have to take a back seat to the quote unquote, what could be success in their current business right now. And I'm okay with that. Like, I think my businesses could be way up here. Instead, they're right here. They're still doing well. I'm very thankful. And, but I know if I kept pushing the envelope for the last 6 years, I could be in a much different place. And I'm not saying you can't do both, but I made the choice to use a lot more of my time to be as present of a father as I could. And so, like I said, it's a blessing and a curse. I absolutely love my dad. We have a great relationship. He still works his freaking tail off at 60 years old, like he was when I was, a kid. And he still has to learn how to turn it off. He just doesn't know how sometimes.
Yeah, it's good.
Sorry, Jordan, you're up, dude.
No, your dad, dude, your dad is the man. I love your dad. Like I said, I had an awesome dad. He was very present in my life. And the one thing that I took away from him, and I love that he did, is that he was involved in like just about every activity in my life growing up. He was there. And, it was, I didn't do Boy Scouts. I did what's called Young Marines. My dad was there every weekend helping out. When I decided to take up hockey, my dad learned how to play ice hockey and then became one of my coaches in roller hockey and ice hockey. My dad was my football coach. My dad, I wanted to learn how to snowboard. He picked up snowboarding. I wanted to learn how to, I wanted dirt bikes. My dad got a dirt bike also, which, at the time I was like, man, that's so cool. If you're looking back at it now, I'm like, what a sucker, dude. Of course he did. Like, dirt bikes are super fun. It was just an excuse for him to spend money. But my dad is the man. I mean, he constantly showed me and told me that he loved me. He wasn't afraid to give me a hug. He was is and just an awesome example of being who you are behind closed doors. I mean, I've literally seen, like, we lost our business and we're homeless there for a little while. And I remember my parents literally giving the last $100 we had to somebody else who was in a worse position than us, which is pretty hard to believe at that time. They just believed that, they were doing the right thing and like didn't question it for 1 second. Like, legitimately, when people say give the shirt off your back, like it's not a figurative thing. My dad literally did that. So being that kind of person, I mean, he just set an awesome standard. Some things that, what's also super cool is that he was very open about the things that he was flawed in. And he would constantly tell me, he's like, Jordan, I don't want you. I'd be like, Dad, I want to be like you when I grow up. He's like, I don't want you to be like me. I want you to be better than me. I want you to stand on my shoulders and go farther than I went. So he's like, don't make the same mistakes I did. So there's times where he should have made moves like financially sooner. There's times where I felt like, he was like, hey, I waited on the Lord too long. He's like, I think it probably was just out of a state of fear. So don't be afraid to just take a step and let God direct you from there. He had, when I was younger, he had a little bit of an anger issue. He had a temper, and he said, hey man, I know my dad had it. I know that I have it, which means that, there might be a chance that you have it. So you need to know that early on and take steps to mitigate that. So, I mean, just like Ben, we're probably two of the few people that are super blessed to have a dad like that.
Yeah. So the one thing, if you were to have changed something, would it be the anger thing?
I think it would be to not be afraid to make decisions sooner.
Okay. That's a pretty big insight to see. Do you feel like you got that insight as a kid, that you felt like your dad took time to make decisions?
Yeah, there's times where he'll fully admit that he sat too long in fear and hid behind the fact. We've talked about this, so that's why I don't feel a problem saying it. Where he almost hid behind the sit and wait on the Lord too much, instead of just taking a step and having him let God direct him along. It sounds really churchy and cliche, but letting God direct you on the move. And he's like, man, yeah, it's easier to move an object that's in motion than one that's standing still. And he's like, there's been times where I got paralyzed out of fear of failure after failing, that I would repeat failure, that I stood still for too long. So that's one thing I learned.
That's good.